Hi, I'm Alyson. I'm a composer that likes stories, and I am working on a game. So for the past few years, I've been throwing around this idea of a game whose story follows a character after their death, as they essentially attempt to recover their sense of self by just figuring out who it was that they were in life and just generally piecing that together. Now, for those who know me, this will come as absolutely no surprise, but I am by no means a visual artist in any sense of the term. I am merely a musician who has an interest in creative writing and just barely passed a computer science course in high school. So this should be interesting in terms of, making a game. And on the art side of things, I decided to enlist the help of Megan, the other half of Off Days. So she's going to be handling most of the art for this. I'll do what I can, but I imagine for the most part it's going to be Megan. We've been throwing around this idea for the visual look of this game that basically the way that we want it to be is we want it to sort of be reminiscent of this character's diary entries. And so pretty much as you learn more about the character and the diary entries, which is to say the visual appearance of the game will be fleshed out more and more as you progress. And we really like that idea. And this is where things get interesting development-wise. Pretty much for the sort of map hub world kind of menu of the game, I wanted it to be sort of reminiscent of sort of just literally just spreading out a map on someone's dining room table, pretty much. And that's all well and good. But I ended up making that in a 3D environment. Except we want the game to be 2D to accommodate for the, 2D assets that are, hand-drawn in notebooks, pretty much. So yeah, pretty much as a result of this a little bit of a minor oversight, I ended up making my little test scene in 3D, but just with the camera set up so that it looks 2D, which I think should work for now. Hopefully, we'll see. It's a little bit janky, but that's okay. So with all of that in a usable state, we're pretty much just turning to writing the story and making the art. And as you can probably guess, things came to a little bit of a screeching halt for that for the time being, because in order to do art for the game, we have to know what assets it calls for. And due to the nature of the story, being about a person literally just discovering remnants of themselves, I can't write anything without, figuring out this character's story. It's a little bit harder than it would seem, because there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in order to make that work, and figuring out what's important. And I made a few attempts at figuring this out off the top of my head, between character sheets and mood boards and Spotify playlists, but nothing was really working for me for this in particular. So I kind of just took a break from that and instead went around the city and getting reference photos for in-game locations. And so fast forward a few days, and I decided that pretty much what I would do is, since I want it to be reminiscent of this character's diary entries, I figured that in order to figure out this character, I would pretty much just write fictional diary entries for this character. And so, yeah, it makes sense at this point now that I'm thinking about it, because pretty much the whole idea is it's based around these sort of like micro stories from this person's perspective, and the memories that you recover in this game would be inspired by these pieces of writing. And so making good progress on that, and at this point that's about like all I've got so far for it. So pretty much like as things progress, I'll be keeping you guys posted on this. In the meantime, I've got an itch.io page set up, so you can go and follow that so that you can get the updates there on it. And also join our Discord, because I'll be talking about it there probably when I work on it. Yeah, that's all I got for this month's developments on it. So, yeah. See you in November, I guess.